Hi, everyone. I'm Monique Alvarez, and I'm so excited to be here with Georgina and Morshdy. And hi, Georgina, first of
Hey,
all.
Monique. Thanks. It's great to be here. It's exciting things.
Absolutely. So, Georgina, where are you joining us from?
I am in Plymouth in the UK.
Beautiful. And I'm joining you all in Colorado here in the US. And Georgina and I are very excited to be creating these series of conversations. And really, this was sparked by an interview that we did a couple of weeks ago where we were talking about, if life as we knew it was over, what would our new role be? What would we have to contribute? Just kind of got the wheels turning. And I reached out to you, Georgina, because there was a particular comment on that conversation that made me realize, like, we need to talk about this more. And an individual said, good morning, why shouldn't we be reliant on grocery stores? Like, why shouldn't we just figure that's where we get our food? And it really sparked something in me that we know the world is changing. I mean, if we missed that memo over the last 2 years, right, we're not paying attention. But also, it's easy when you're in this high intensity for a serious amount of time, right? This wasn't a few days or a few weeks. It's been, we're going to go into the third year of this, is that it's easy to sort of just keep going. Let's just keep doing life. And we want to talk about life after the empire. We want to talk about how we cannot be reliant on the grocery store, how we don't need to be reliant on what some people call health systems, public school systems. The truth of the matter is a lot of these systems, they're already crumbling, right? Education systems, they're going. And so why don't we start living in a new way now, right? So, Georgina, you want to share anything about, what sparked this or why we're doing it?
Yeah, so one of the things that I've been increasingly interested in is getting a real sense of, getting more curious into what's happening in the world. See, there's big issues with the crime crisis, like social justice issues have really come more and more into the forefront. And it really got me questioning, like, who am I? What role am I playing? What role can I play? And I've just started to explore the possibility that although we can do a lot of things in terms of our own self-growth and our own self-work, like, we live in a system, and that system right now is capitalism. It's built from colonialism, and we have all this residue that obviously is impacting all of us. And so I've got more and more curious about, who would I be if that system wasn't there? Like, or who am I because of that system? And we can see that system, while it's given us some good stuff, it's given us a lot of really, really, really bad stuff. And it's also taking us to this point of, I wrote about this in one of your books, Monique, this notion that we're on this path, this crossroads for humanity, between evolution and extinction, because we know our way of life isn't sustainable in the West. We know that we're extracting from the planet. There's oppression. There's all these things which are really causing a lot of harm. And who do we need to be someone who can contribute to something different? So that I got really curious about that. And so when we had our conversations about, what would you be if the internet went down, or our way of life as you know it no longer exists, that really got me thinking. So.
Yeah, and I want to say too, right off the bat, thank you for Mary and those of you who are watching. I want to say right off the bat, like, we're not here to solve all the problems or say that we know how. We're here to open the conversation, because the thing that we know is that we have to make changes, right? We have to think differently. And for some people who this is not even on their radar, right? They're just simply going through the motions. This isn't for them. This is for the people who have some sort of awareness. They're not so deep in just finding a way to take care of themselves, but understand on some level that they remember why they're here. They know that they're not just here for themselves. They understand the connection that we all have. Because the thing of it is that we can't have people that claim to be spiritually enlightened and to have achieved financial abundance, and we're all still behaving in old ways, right? And so that's the key. So our invitation is go on the journey with us. Let's see what we uncover. Let's see what changes we can make, because we all know it's not going to come from the top, right? This is not about saying, oh, this is the government's job. And we know that there's programs in place. They're not working. So the point is now we have to look at ourselves and go, who am I? What can I do? And we become more of this grassroots level, and we're going one local community at a time. And that's the other thing, right? Same thing, like you said, I feel like technology, the internet has given us many gifts. Like I wouldn't have met you outside of this. And yet it is also, in a lot of ways, made it okay to disconnect from the neighborhood we live in, the town that we live in, the place that we are physically located. So that kind of lays the groundwork. And we were thinking about, what's the first thing that we want to talk about? And it's this whole idea of this hoarding and amassing, while there's plenty of people who live right down the road from us who don't have enough. Yeah. So Georgina, you want to?
Yeah. This is certainly a topic that I've given a lot of thought to, and before I kind of start talking, I want to just echo what you were saying, Monique, as well. This notion that we're not coming here with like all the answers. I am actively still learning and unlearning things, and so maybe some of this will be messy, maybe some of this will be activating, maybe some of this will get you thinking, but we're not coming at you with like the truth. We're coming at you with some ideas of hopefully to get you thinking and inspire you to maybe challenge some of the preconceptions that you have. And I think Monique and I both come from like this coaching world, this online coaching world. This is how we met, and I think from my perspective, I'm seeing a lot of focus on celebrating wealth and celebrating money and talking about it being like a new paradigm. But there's almost this contradiction, because the paradigm we live in right now is all about focusing on wealth and power and success and hierarchy and exploitation to accumulate wealth for some people, where other people, and obviously the planet as well, as it's providing the raw materials and resources for our growth, how there's this pile of exploitation happening. And so I think that's one thing that really got me thinking about how can we say this is a new paradigm when it's almost replicating the stuff we've already seen. It's just dressed differently. It's a lot of women talking about it, and it's women often, obviously we've seen the lingerie pictures and the luxury, all these kind of things. So that I did question that for myself. I would question, and I invite you to have that conversation too. Is that really new paradigm thinking? Is it really new paradigm thinking, or is it the same thing just dressed up in a different way? And if it's the same thing dressed up in a different way, then we can conclude from that we're just on the same trajectory. We're not necessarily taking ourselves and our communities and humanity as a whole in a different direction. And if we agree that we need to take a different direction, then I guess we need to start thinking, okay, what needs to happen differently? What different types of thinking? And so on the one hand, of course, we need money, because money is the resource we use to trade and to buy basic necessities, because we are no longer subsistence cultures. That's been gone for a long, long time. And that's definitely something that Monique and I want to talk about. And there's a notion of, you can get to a point of meeting your survival needs and then meeting thriving needs. But where do we draw the line? At what point do we say that, okay, I've reached a point of I'm doing well. Now I want to look at how I can give back to my community, my family, and the world and the planet in a way that is like this relationship of reciprocity rather than exploitation and extraction. So this is one of the things we want to bring to you today is a question. And what responsibility do we have as individuals when we reach that point of having some excess? Where do we shift from accumulation and hoarding for ourselves and the people we have to take care of, to having a more community focus and choosing to redistribute some of that wealth back into the community for the benefit of all. Monique, what do you think?
Yeah, this is a big one, right? So I live in the same fish bowl that you do. And I want to be clear, that's what this is, right? We all live in a fish bowl. Like this online space, this this is actually a small percentage of this is just like one blip, because most of the world doesn't live like this, doesn't think like this, it doesn't operate like this. And this conversation, right? Brad's on. Thank you, Brad, for cracking us open. This conversation and this line of thinking has been so needed for me, because I spent my 20s as a volunteer overseas in places that most people would never go to. And I saw things that most people will never see. And then I also have the flip of being raised in the United States, having everything you could ever want, right? I never wanted as a child. I came back, I created a business that has more than enough. I serve thousands of people around the world. And so it's this interesting juxtaposition and 2 points of view. And I think one of the things that really got my wheels turning a couple of years ago was this idea that is really spread in our fishbowl that wealth alone changes our consciousness. Like it raises the frequency of the planet automatically. And I'm not sure it automatically does. Yeah. I'm not sure that that's the entire purpose of us being here. And I'd love to hear from you all, right? I find that it is a tool, and it is a necessary tool at times, right? More necessary at certain times than others. But I have a hard time buying into just like, if somebody makes more money, they're automatically like closer to God, right? It doesn't, that's not how I've seen it play out, unfortunately. And I think the thing that you brought up is the thing that really got on my radar, because we had traveled full time overseas with our boys for 5 years, the first 5 years of their life. And we came back to the little town I'm from, and we took over my grandparents' property. And as soon as we got here, I got really clear instructions from this land that we were to, plant fruit trees. We were to have a greenhouse. We were to, create ways to use the water better. We were to grow food for our entire extended family. And when I started getting these instructions, it was that moment of, oh, this is the shift, right? Because before that, well, initially it was me and Derek taking care of ourselves. Okay. Because when we started our business, I remember we had a negative bank account balance, right? We were just like two kids having no idea what we were doing. So goal number one was just like, hey, we can pay the bills and Wells Fargo won't take out an overdraft fee every single time, right? And then we hit that. Okay, we got ourselves out of that. Then we were taking care of our boys and giving them experiences that we felt were important for them to have a wider worldview. And then when this came in, it's like, no, you need to look after your entire extended family. You need to find a way to grow food. You need to create this property in such a way that it becomes an oasis and a haven. It expanded, right? And all of a sudden, like we have poured nearly every dollar we've made in the last 2 years into this property and into trees and plants and flowers and herbs and superfoods. And that is a big shift, right? And that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Like at some point, like, have you all hit that point when you go, oh, this isn't just for me to get another pair of shoes or a cool photo shoot or the next car or the next thing? Like it broadens. And all of a sudden we start going, oh, this isn't just for me. This isn't just about me having, a cooler post to put on social media so I can one up everyone. This isn't just about me realizing like, oh my gosh, I'm capable and I can reach a goal and I can receive a certain amount of money. Like at what point does it get beyond that? Right. And I think that that's why we wanted to have these conversations, because it's actually possible to spend our entire lifetime in that loop right there. Really, all we're doing is proving to ourselves and the jackholes in our life, like, I made it. check this out. I made it. I did it. Look at me. Look what I got. Right. But that's not really why we're here, is it? And so I think that that's what's been sparked in me in the last 2 years. And here's the interesting thing. It's contagious, I'll tell you. So like, beware, right? If you're not open to this, you better click off, because it's contagious. Because once this seed drops into the soil of your heart, you are ruined for how you've been thinking. And you actually probably can't hang out with certain people anymore. And you can't go along with certain ideologies anymore. Because what I'm finding is, once you start expanding your circle and who you feel responsible for, not in an obligation, duty, hard and heavy way, but because your heart wants to, and you see that you're capable, it just keeps growing, right? And I want to give practical ways of how we can do this, because I'm really about the practicality. Like, if we don't walk away from this and do something differently, think something differently, then we're just, blowing smoke up each other's skirts and, taking an hour away from our kids, and who cares? So that's the point that I really want to bring others to. Or if you're already there, give you a space to talk, because guess what? Your coach and your mastermind and the group that you're hanging out with in the online space, they're probably not celebrating that. They're probably not like, hey, Becky, that's awesome. You're going to build an eco community for your whole extended family. Awesome. No, that's usually not what's celebrated. So I want to change what we value and what we consider to be, praiseworthy.
Totally. And I think you've raised a really good question here, and it's something that I think it's worth really contemplating, is really getting clear on why we're desiring the things we do. Like, why do we desire the things we do? And this can take some really deep work, and this is definitely something I'm working on myself, is what are those ego desires? What are those ego desires disguised as spiritual desires or spiritual messages? Because, and this piece is quite challenging, because we live in a world, our capitalist societies are driven by consumerism. And so the society depends on us consuming more for that structure to keep functioning and to keep growing, because capitalism depends on perpetual growth. That's like at the heart of it. And so our desiring material things or ownership or travel or luxury, this is all part of the capitalist process. And it's really important for us to start to really dig in and distinguish between, okay, am I desiring that thing I have to purchase because it's what my soul is telling me I desire, or because it's been imprinted on me, because I've seen certain influencers have that, or I'm associating that with success, or I'm associating that with my next evolution or my ascension, etc. And this piece can be really difficult, because especially in our little fishbowl, we see a lot of this on social media, a lot of luxury lifestyles associated with spirituality. And at some level, potentially, we've lost connection with what the soul desire is, because chances are a lot of those desires are implanted through marketing, through media, through entertainment, through like influencer and celebrity culture, not necessarily by God or by source or by soul. Like, that's what I would invite you to consider that.
There's another component to this, okay, that I want to throw in, that when I examine this is what I find, is that it's habit and it's addiction. Okay. And I want to give a very specific personal example. So I love Banana Republic. Okay. It's this clothing store in the US, right? And when we got here, we didn't arrive with a lot, right? We had like, I don't know, six bags or something, 4 of which were the boys. And we'd been living in southern Mexico. Like, it's hot as hell. Like, you never wear clothes. We wore a swimming suit all day. Like, we talked about how for 3 months we didn't take our swimming suit off. And so when we got to Colorado, I was like, you know what? I need clothes. I need winter clothes. I need jackets. I need boots. I need this, right? And so I went onto Banana Republic. I basically bought everything they had, right? Whatever that season, whatever was out in that season, it's in my closet. But here's the problem, and here's the slippery slope, is that Banana Republic's got my number now. They send me emails. They run Facebook ads to me. They're in my head. And every day they have one job, is to convince me that I don't have enough in that closet, that I need this season's jacket and this season's boots. And, oh, I don't have the purse in that color and I don't have that thing, right? This is what's true for me. And so literally one of the things that I have been face to face with is when we all know how powerful marketing is. Hello, this is the world we're in, right? And marketing that exists to convince me that I don't have enough and that I would be just a little bit better. Like I'd somehow have an edge if I had more, if I had it in that color. It's not good for me. And it's my job to be aware enough to go, yeah, you know what? I'm unsubscribing. I'm unfollowing. I'm exiting this thing I'm in, right? Because here's the thing. They'll keep coming out with stuff. And it'll be cute every time and I'll love it every time, but I sure as heck don't need it. I can tell you that. I don't need it. And this is what has to happen. This is the only way we stop hoarding and amassing and buying stuff, right? I mean, I'm an American. I mean, honestly, when I lived in certain countries, I thought if these people knew what was in even like what Americans would call lower middle class, if they knew what was inside these people's homes, they would be blown away, right? It is hard for us to realize how much we have. And this is one of the things that really like I battle with, because I hear Americans even talking about how they don't have enough and how they can't afford it. And they want like all of this stuff. And I'm like, you're the richest people on the planet. You have 100 times more than most people. And we've convinced ourselves that we don't, that we do not have enough. And that's what I step up and I look at that bullshit face to face myself, because I know I don't need another thing. I know another thing, it will give me a hit. Sure, that's exactly the problem, right? It will give me a hit. It will give me that serotonin boost. But I also know that fades really fast. I also know that there's something far more fulfilling and satisfying than that. And that's what I want to, that's the carrot I actually want to put in front of you, is that there's something even better than that buzz. Are we willing to look a little further? Because until we get out, right, we get hit 100 times a day, right? That fucking line around Starbucks block, people are in that line to get a hit. People are shopping online to get a hit. People are taking their kids to sporting events and 62 activities to get a hit. We're doing everything for a hit. And do we even know it? That's the question. Do we even know it?
Yeah, great. I mean, great conversation. And this materialistic culture we live in, on the one hand, it's great, isn't it? We have all this convenience and this comfort and these easy hits. And there is a price to pay. There's a price to pay on us as individuals, on us as a collective, but also on the planet, which is being, consistently exploited for us to meet all these needs and requirements. And so I think you're right, Monique. It's this notion of, what if there's something deeper? What if we've almost like cheapened ourselves by believing that the ultimate life is all about acquisition and accumulation and having, I mean, when we say abundance, we actually mean financial abundance. We mean enough money to buy anything we want and to do anything we like, and that's complete freedom. I think we need to challenge that notion, because I don't believe that is the definition of freedom. I think there's something else. And I also think that we are being invited right now, because this is a turning point for humanity. I think COVID was a line in the sand, a before and an after. We'll never go back to life the way it was before COVID. And now we have this opportunity to really get intentional about what is it we want to create. And I think we can find a lot of clues in how things used to be. And I'm talking about life maybe before capitalism, life when there was this moment where we lived in collaborative communities. We were subsistence people. We lived in harmony with the land. We respected the land. We recognize, and this is the important bit, we recognize we were part of the land, not separate from the land, but we were inherently connected to the flow of life, not something elevated or not something that was put here to have domain and to control and conquer the planet. No, we were put here as part of the ecosystem, but with these amazing gifts where we had the abilities to use natural resources to enhance our lives. So I just want to be clear that at this point in time, I'm not saying, oh, that was so much better back then, you know, we should all go back to like those times. What I'm saying is there's things we can learn from that, particularly with the community living piece, because right now we are so isolated. We're so isolated, and I think part of that's been intentional. We've, you know, shrunk ourselves down into our own little boxes where we make sure we're okay, we make sure our immediate family is okay, and we might look out for other people, but we have a lot to say or a lot to think, maybe subconsciously, about the people who deserve our help and the people who don't deserve our help. And we can ignore problems that are happening overseas because they're far away and they're not really affecting us right now. So we don't need to be part of that. But if we believe, as our ancestors used to, if we believe that we are part of everything and we're all connected and we're part of the natural cycles on this planet, then everything does matter. Like, we are connected to all of that. So how do we become more conscious in terms of how we live so that our footprint and our imprint is a positive one, rather than one of that leaves a hole?
Yeah, a hole. Well, you know, I want to give a story, an example of what I did after we had this conversation about doing this conversation, right? So you and I met and we were like, okay, do we want to do this? How are we going to do it? And so I closed off of here and I went and gathered my boys. I said, come to your room. And we went through every single article of clothing that was in their closet. Every single one. They touched it. I touched it. We organized it. We got a pile of the clothes that they've outgrown. We looked at the pajamas. How many pajamas does Grant have? Sam have? Okay, pants, shirts, right? Jackets. We went through the whole thing. And we took the clothes that they outgrew to this place that we can take things, you know, that people can just go find what they need, right? And we sat down on the beds and I said, do you boys have everything you need? And they were like, yeah. There was plenty left. And I said, and up in your playroom, do you have plenty of toys, books, Legos, like, yeah. Is there anything that you boys need? No. Right. And I said, so here's the thing I want you to know. Christmas is coming up. Yeah. And I want to make sure that you boys know that that what's under the Christmas tree or the presents that you receive is not anything related to how much I love you. It can be a tradition of where we give gifts and we think of other people. I do not want you to think that. And what I wanted us all to see was that we don't actually need anything. And so what if we made, from Thanksgiving to Christmas to New Year's to your birthdays, about what memories we're going to make together? What things do we want to do together? And they were like, yeah, okay. They didn't care one way or another. That's the truth of the matter, right? And oftentimes, like, this time of year is a great opportunity to go, okay, how are we going to do the holidays, right? Is what I'm buying my kids make me feel good about myself, make me look good in the eyes of others? Does it help make up for times I wasn't there and I'm not, you know, doing things with them? Like, what's the real meaning behind the big boom that's getting ready to happen? Probably already started, right? The big shopping spree. So we decided, we already laid things out. Even like next week, we're going to take a day and we're going to go to the hot springs as a family. We figured out what the meals that we're going to have, the hikes that we're going to do, the playing racquetball at the rec center, right? We laid out the things and the memories that we wanted to have together, that we wanted to, the memories we want to make together. Maybe have a bonfire and roast marshmallows, right? So this time of year is a great time to really like take inventory of this. And then of course the natural conversation was, as I said, you realize that not all little boys in this town have what you have, right? And how do you feel about us going and getting a name off the Christmas tree at that store and buying a jacket for that little boy and buying a pair of boots for that little girl? It's important that my kids understand the whole world doesn't live the way they do, and that there are people down the street who don't have winter clothes. And there's a reason why they don't have it. And they're not going to figure it out in the next 5 minutes. They're not going to figure it out this winter. And if we have more than enough, then why shouldn't we help them and their parents? Why shouldn't we do that? Right? And that's the conversation. That's the culture I want my kids to be raised in. And that's what we're looking at right now.
Yeah, I think it's super powerful, because when we ensure our children have this awareness, because I think the generation of children that are here now, I have really good hopes about the kind of things that they can bring into the world, because I think they do have a different perspective. And I think sometimes you're right, Monique, it does take this kind of shift in awareness or shift in consciousness to really get clear on, oh, there's people living in a very, very different way to me. The first time I had that experience was when I went to India in the early 2000s. I solo traveled around India for 6 weeks. Before the days of social media and stuff, it was an amazing experience. And culturally, it was just amazing. It was one of the best experiences of my life. And I just vividly remember being really shocked and also humbled at the contrast between the wealth and the poverty. I'd never seen real poverty in my life until I went there, and it was really humbling to see how I thought I had to live with the materialism of maybe a more of a Western culture against the different values in what I saw in India. And the thing that really struck me, and it just struck me, that I saw so many more people that were happy. That's the thing that really struck me. It was really confusing to me, because I couldn't understand how people could be happy if they didn't have as much as I did. And that's really what I took home from that trip, is that awareness of happiness isn't related to materialism. This Western belief is actually really damaging. And I think the last 20 years we have been dismantling that. But I think you're right. Choosing Christmas holiday season as this opportunity to really challenge that consumerism. I'm sure it's the same in the US, but you go into UK supermarkets right now. In fact, you went into the UK supermarkets last month and they're awash with like the Christmas products and Christmas decorations and Christmas foods and Christmas cheer. Like, Christmas is like 2 months away. Like, can we not just, why do we have to make Christmas this 3-month commercial build up? Like, what does Christmas actually mean? Is it really all about the things we're buying? Is that really what it is? And I mean, it's not. For me, it isn't about that. And I get so frustrated, because when I was younger, how many times do we say that? But it wasn't like that. Christmas came a lot later, even into the supermarkets. So it really felt special. But when it's just elongated so much and it's all about buying, we lose sight of what Christmas really can mean, or what the holidays can mean. And so, like, I'm with you in the sense of, like, what are some other ways that we can invest our wealth, our money, our excess? How can we use that when we know that materialism isn't necessarily going to make us happy? It might give us a hit momentarily, but long term we have more clutter in our homes. Like, how many of us have bought something that we really, really wanted, and then a few months later it's like discarded at the back of the cupboard, or it's taken to a charity shop because it's no longer the thing that is the thing. How many of us have made those purchases? And so I think it's good to look at alternative ways to put our money. For example, one of the things that I love doing, like I love going to charity shops. I buy lots of clothes from charity shops, and I love that for a number of reasons. It's very cost effective for sure, but I just love the fact that I am not contributing to, say, fast fashion. Like we're reusing materials that would otherwise potentially end up in landfill. Like the clothes are good quality, so that's something that I really enjoy doing, and obviously it's supporting a good cause as well. And with Christmas gifting and things, we should be asking ourselves, like, who do we need to buy gifts for? Who don't we need to buy gifts for? Why are we buying gifts? Is it just for show, or is it because we've always done it, or does it actually mean something? Because that money that isn't spent on material things, you could spend that elsewhere. Maybe you could, as you say, buy gifts for children who need something, or support a food bank. I don't know if you have food banks in the US, but that's that they've become a really big thing over here recently. And then this is how we can build these connections with people who are outside our little bubble, and knowing that our presence has made a difference. But what we have to remember is, just by that giving and receiving cycle, that is the flow of life, right? And we're designed to give. We're also designed to receive. We're designed to be supportive, and we're designed to be supported. And that cycle of giving and receiving, supporting and being supported, doesn't just have to apply to the people in your direct house or the clients that you're serving. It can be way, way wider than that. And I think we get a lot of satisfaction from knowing that, oh, I made someone's life a little bit easier today. And then maybe karma at some point. In fact, Monique, you said this to me last time we spoke, that who knows, maybe you're supporting somebody one day, but who knows, in the future that might be you that needs that support, or it might be your child that needs support. Wouldn't you want to think that someone was there making sure they were okay? And this is what we have this opportunity to do now, is rethink what we've accumulated, rethink what we're hoarding, and use it in different ways to actually build a different world, not one that's disguised as the old one.
So true. So here's a couple practical steps. Yeah, here's a couple of practical things that you could go do, and we'd love to hear if one of these is what you're going to do, or if something else popped in for you, or I'm sure there's ideas that you have to share with us. So put them in the chat. So a couple of things, if you're not part of your local community, if there's not like a Facebook group or a place where you can figure out what the most important needs in your community are, find that spot, right? Like Georgina, you mentioned, there might be a food bank that's really in need of donations. There might be a Christmas tree set up somewhere, or like a Christmas box where they have all of the children and most important needs that are, right now. I was telling Georgina that there is a local Facebook group that I'm a part of, and every time, like this time of year, they'll put a post up like, what do you need? And let's see if the group can fill those needs. That's a really great way, right, to start a conversation in your local area. What do you need? And let's see if we can fill it, because it's actually pretty incredible how many of those needs were met immediately. The other thing is just kind of considering how you, like, pausing, right? I find if I want to change my behavior, I got to pause, I got to slow it down. Otherwise, I'm just going to go right into default. I'm just going to keep doing what I've done. Is how do you want to handle and approach gifts this time of year? How do you want to handle and approach gifts? One of the things that I think that we're going to do, we had a huge apple crop this year. So I think we might make apple butter and give that out, and like maybe make something homemade. Yeah. One of the things that I'm having the boys do is like create art for like their grandparents and their cousin, whoever they wanted to give a gift to. So the whole point is just, hey, being mindful of it. Is this how I want to do it this year? And making that decision from a good place instead of a place of like, this is just how it's always been done. That I think is a good first kind of start. Georgina, you got any ideas that are brewing?
Yeah, so I think change happens through a combination of taking action, but also like mindset shifts. And a lot of what we're talking about here is that shift in consciousness, like the shift in what your perspective is, like what you believe to be true. And so what I found is what can be really powerful is to journal, and allows to bring a really good question into your journal and have that conversation with yourself, and give yourself permission to challenge yourself, to dig below the surface, because this is where you start to tap into some of that wisdom within and get to know yourself at a deeper and deeper level. And so I'd love to leave you with a journal prompt or two. My first one would be thinking about excess. And so that might be excess time, that might be excess money, that might be other excess resources. If you have an excess, what is that excess for? And I think the obvious answer would be, oh, it's for me to invest, or it's for me to build extra wealth. And that's definitely one option. And I would challenge you to explore if there are other avenues that excess could be used in a way that we've explored. How can it be used for community benefit? And that's different from saying, oh, I'm going to donate to charity because that's a tax write-off, for example. That's got a very different energy and feel to it than doing something through, because it's an extension of who you are. It's an expression of who you are. It's a handing of love and genuine care for other people, not just to reduce your tax bill at the end of the year. So explore what your excess is actually for. And there'll probably be an ego answer. There may well be a soul answer. There might be an answer from spirit guides, or who knows what else we're in communication with. Just see what you come up with, and see if that gives you some ideas for different ways of being or different actions you could take.
I like that. And here's the beautiful thing is, if we'll sit with it for a minute and we'll write what is coming, then you can more easily take this conversation to the spaces that you have influence in, your clients, your Facebook groups, your email list, to other family members. This allows you to go crack open a new conversation with the people around you. And that's how this all works, right? It's not about these big events and this big deal. It's just about these ideas, these questions, these conversations, these considerations that begin to crack. They create cracks in what has been. And that's what we're here to do.
Yeah. And I think just give yourself permission to be messy at this stage, especially if this is new behavior. Because it can be quite challenging to come out and say things that maybe go against the norm or are different from what you're hearing in your circle. But this is how change happens. Change happens by, just as Monique said, just that opening a crack somewhere and diving into it and seeing where it expands, and having the courage and the curiosity to go there, even if you mess things up, even if you say the wrong thing, even if you don't get it right the first time, but just being willing, being vulnerable. And if you cause harm in the process, then you take responsibility for that and make amends for that, because this, for sure, this new way of being is a process of learning and unlearning, and it is a process of extracting ourselves from a capitalist system, let's be honest, that we've all been born into, we've all benefited from at some level. And now we're inviting you to question, okay, what harm is this causing to ourselves and to others and to the planet? How can we be different?
And it feels important to say, as we finish this session, that if you are in a position where you don't feel like you can do the things that you have done in the past. Maybe this was a more challenging year. Maybe the increase in prices of things has affected you. Maybe, you know, a spouse lost a job. Maybe your business didn't go the way that you thought it was. I want you to know that that's, and sometimes that's the greatest gift, is when we're actually not in the place where we can do the same behavior, where we can keep up the traditions that we have in the past. You, your kids, your family, you're going to be okay. This is an opportunity to go, instead of it feeling like it's going to happen to you, like it's something terrible, right? Something that your kids are paying for. Pause for a second, see how you can actually turn this around, where this might become the most meaningful holiday season that you've had, where you get to have a different perspective and you get to take your family and your kids in on that. Yeah. The mark of being a good person or a good parent because of what you can buy this time of year, it's not true. It's not true. It doesn't make you a bad person. It does not make you a bad parent.
Totally. That's such an important point, and I'd love to remind people of that notion we said earlier about that spectrum of supporting and supported. And you know, we all move across that spectrum at different phases in our lives. Sometimes we can be supportive, sometimes we need support, and it takes courage to offer support, but it also takes courage to receive support as well. And so I think that's such a great way to put it, that sometimes we do need to be in a different position to crack open a different perspective and to allow that to be the catalyst for real change. So maybe if you're more in that place of needing support, it's about asking for support. Maybe if you're in that position of being able to be supportive, it's about really looking at how you can be supportive in ways you've never been before.
Absolutely. We appreciate you joining us. And as we continue this conversation, I think we'll show up every other Wednesday at the same time and see what comes up. We'd love to hear your ideas and your thoughts. Feel free to drop us something in the comments, but also you connect with us and send us a private message. All of your feedback, your conversation, your ideas, your ahas will just help spark more conversations like this. So until next time. Thank you, Georgina.
Thank you, Monique.
Okay, see you soon.
Everyone.